The Los Angeles Kings have hired themselves a new head coach. They have former Oilers bench boss Todd McLellan. In today's video, we're going to take a look back in his coaching history and discuss this hire and see what kind of fit he will be with the LA Kings. And that's coming up next. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. We review and discuss all 31 NHL teams, so if you're a huge hockey fan, consider subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. So amidst all the NHL playoff action, we had yet another non-playoff team in the LA Kings decide their future here and hire a new head coach, and that's former Oilers and Sharks bench boss Todd McLellan. Now, this is probably one of the worst kept secrets around the NHL. I had speculated myself for some time that he more than likely was going to be the next coach of the Los Angeles Kings. To be honest, I was kind of surprised on how far talks went along here between himself and the Buffalo Sabres as well. It was being reported at one point that he was really close to signing and becoming the Kings coach. And it was also speculated that he was talking to the Buffalo Sabres and that he might very well be their next head coach, and it wasn't quite clear what direction he was going in. But he has ended up in LA, where I suspected he would land here all along, mostly due to the past relationship with GM Rob Blake. Of course, Blake played under the San Jose Sharks team before he retired, where McLellan was originally the head coach while he was there. So they know each other from those days and had a lot of success. So obviously Rob Blake knows firsthand what kind of coach Todd McLellan is and feels that he would be a good fit here for this Kings team who greatly underachieved this year. But you have to wonder what kind of direction the Kings are going in. Is this a sign that they're going to look more for a retool than a rebuild? You would think that maybe if they were going full-on rebuild here, that perhaps they'd go in a different direction instead of having such an experienced coach who can command such a big salary. So this tells me that they likely feel like they can make some minor changes and maybe do a retool here and try to get back to their winning ways and get back to the playoffs here in the short term. They are committed long term to some of these players that might prove very difficult to end up trading anyways. I mean, between Anze Kopitar, Drew Doughty, even though they are pretty strong players, have had great careers, but in order to really move this team forward, they're going to have to make some significant changes. You still got a number of years left on Jeff Carter, Jonathan Quick, amongst others here. So hard to say. We saw them trade Jake Muzzin, Nate Thompson, a few other minor players as well before the deadline. But they haven't really done anything too significant, with the Muzzin deal being the most significant trade they made. Since they traded Muzzin, they're probably more likely going to hang on to Alec Martinez. And like I said, they have these other guys that are all committed to long-term deals. Of all of them, though, Jonathan Quick would be the one that most likely would make the most sense to trade from a variety of perspectives. One being the fact that he doesn't have any trade protection in his contract. And secondly, they do have a couple other goaltenders that have proven to be very capable here. While Jonathan Quick has been out injured here in the past year or two, they've all had a chance to play. And I do think that they're able to move on here and get just as good of results, or at least close to it, from the other younger goaltenders. So trading Jonathan Quick very well might be one of the options we see. So I guess we'll see what the Kings do here, but this tells me that they're likely not going to be doing anything too significant and are likely going to be retooling this summer. Now let's take a quick look here at the coaching history for Todd McLellan to show you what kind of history he has in case you're not familiar. So Todd McLellan grew up in Western Canada. He's from Saskatchewan originally. That's where he played hockey himself, and then retired at a fairly young age and ended up getting into coaching. Coached in the Western Hockey League prior to getting into the NHL. Obviously, before his NHL head coaching experience, he also had time as a head coach in the American Hockey League, and then he became an assistant coach under Mike Babcock for a few years before he got his first gig as head coach of the San Jose Sharks. Now, during his time in San Jose, he coached there for 7 seasons, ended up over 540 games with 311 wins, 163 losses, and 66 overtime or shootout losses for a winning percentage of .637. So it was very solid. They also appeared in 62 playoff games. Unfortunately, they didn't win enough of those to bring that elusive Stanley Cup back, but they had numerous appearances in the conference finals, winning 32 games, losing 32 for a .484 winning percentage. During his time in San Jose, of course, not long after being let go by the Sharks, he was brought in by the Edmonton Oilers, who was going through some major changes. They had hired Peter Chiarelli as their next general manager, and Chiarelli brought in McLellan to be the next head coach. Things got off to a slower start in Edmonton. As first year, they only achieved 70 points and finished 7th in their division, so not really where they wanted to be. The next year, though, his second season in Edmonton in 16-17, they had a much better year, had a lot of drastic improvements, and improved to a 103-point regular season with a 628 regular season winning percentage, second in their division, and made it all the way to the second round of the playoffs and came very, very close on making it to round 3 as well. So they had an excellent year, but then after that, it's been nothing but setbacks. The next year, they dropped to 78 points, missed the playoffs, and things did not get any better this year. Got off to an even slower start with a 9-10-1 record, and then he was ultimately dismissed and replaced by Ken Hitchcock, obviously as on an interim basis for the rest of the year. Hitchcock likely does do something with the Oilers next year, but it's not quite clear if he's going to be their head coach. It's certainly not a guarantee by any means. They likely go in a different direction, so it's not quite clear who will be the next bench boss of the Oilers moving forward here. But Todd McLellan does have a lot of success in the past. He's proven that before. A lot of the guys that he coached in San Jose are still with that club, and they were much younger when he was able to take them and help them, guide them to a lot of success there. So I do think McLellan will be a good fit in LA. My only concern, though, more so than the coaching position, is the roster. I really think that team needs to get younger and faster. They just don't have enough speed. They have a harder time keeping up. After the Kings fired John Stevens this past year and had brought in Willie Desjardins on an interim basis, I knew that wasn't going to last. After a little while, those players really seemed to not even have a whole lot of respect for him. Most of them at the year-end press conferences were talking about even the practice habits, and things weren't taken seriously. So it was abundantly clear from the get-go here, as soon as the season was done, that he did not have any chance to return, and he likely didn't want to anyhow. It wasn't exactly a good fit between him and the Los Angeles Kings. So McLellan's going to bring a whole different approach here, a very different, more experienced coach, and we'll see what he can do with the Kings next year. But ultimately, if Rob Blake doesn't make some fairly significant changes to the roster, it's hard to imagine him having a whole lot better of a result. Same thing with McLellan ended up in Edmonton. I do believe he's a good coach. Outside of the Oilers' top players, there just wasn't enough depth to really achieve a lot of success. And really, I don't think you can put a whole lot of the blame on McLellan for the lack of success in Edmonton while he was there. Ultimately, that falls on management for not really providing a very solid roster to get the job done. So as always, I want to hear your thoughts and opinions. What do you think of Todd McLellan being the next head coach of the Los Angeles Kings? Do you think that is a good fit for them? And do you see that working out here in the long term? And do you also think that means that LA likely makes some less significant changes this year and tries to offer a retool rather than go the way of the rebuild? If you're new to the channel here, I hope you consider subscribing. We cover all 31 NHL teams, and there's plenty of content here for all hockey fans to enjoy. So if you're new, hit the subscribe button for more videos just like this one, and give it a thumbs up before you go if you enjoyed it as well. I would appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you for watching, and we will catch you next time.